All right, some breaking news coming in at this moment. Mumbai-based Rajasthan Royals players has made a stunning claim. The first controversy of IPL 8 is now here. The Rajasthan Royals player says he was approached to fix an IPL game. That's the allegation that is coming in at this moment. We have Rasesh Mandani joining us with all the latest details are too preliminary. Rasesh, if you can hear me, can you just take us through who this player is, who has he approached, and what was the nature of the spot fixing that, perhaps bookies or whoever actually approached him wanted him to do?
Saket, what we know as of now is that it was one of the Rajasthan Royals players who happens to be based out of Mumbai, has played Ranji cricket for Mumbai, who was approached by a fellow Ranji player as well, who does not play IPL at the moment. This incident occurred last month, where the approach was to the extent of following a certain set pattern during the course of a game, which essentially equates to how spot fixing works. And the player, realizing the seriousness of it, informed the franchisee senior official, who informed the BCCI, and then the BCCI informed the ACSU. So that's the process that was followed. But it is quite alarming, Sanket, that at a time when the previous spot fixing scandal led to the situation that it did, the matter went to the Supreme Court. Then in situation where one understands there is immense vigilance, there are still approaches being made, which means that these elements still look at possible susceptible players and try and see if they can take it forward. Also, the fact that it was again a Rajasthan Royals player. So these are all educated attempts and approaches made by elements or looking to involve fixing in the game to see if they can take things forward. And I think also what I find alarming is that it says that the middleman involved here is again a cricketer, which is quite extraordinary. That cricketers who do not feature anymore in the IPL are looking to lure players within the IPL setup and get the fixing going.
Now, a couple of things, Rasesh. Number one, if this player that you're talking about was approached last month, that quite obviously means that the attempt to spot fix was being made in the 8th season of IPL. That is this season that has just kick-started about 2 or 3 days back, isn't it?
That's absolutely right, Sanket. This also goes to show that there is a well-devised plan which is played out much before the IPL begins. Remember last time, the previous month, which means is when the World Cup was on. This is much before the IPL is set to begin. And if you go back to a few years where the fixing scandal broke out, it was again a similar pattern that was followed. That one of the players who did not feature in the IPL setup, who did not feature in the Rajasthan Royals setup, ended up approaching the player, and then the fixing scandal broke out. After which the drama occurred in midnight, and the likes of Srishant, Ajit Chandelia, and Ankit Chavan were arrested. And that case is still going on. They have been subsequently suspended. But coming back to the incident here, it is a Mumbai-based Rajasthan Royals player who was approached by a fellow player who does not feature in the IPL anymore, but who he has shared a dressing room with for Mumbai cricket team, who approached him. And this is obviously orders coming in from a bookie syndicate where an attempt to spot fixing was made. So it's not that easy to get an entire match fixing process going, where you can involve a number of team players in today's days of vigilance. But spot fixing is equally alarming, because in that scenario you look to target a player who could possibly play in the playing 11, and then probably can lure in a few more players and follow a certain set pattern in the course of a game.
Rasesh, do stay on with us. We have Nikhil Chopra also joining us this time. Nikhil, the worst of fears coming true all over again. The first controversy of IPL season 8, it seems fixing is something which is a deep rot within the IPL. Let me just quickly tell you before I ask you a question, or bring you up to speed with the information, Nikhil, that we have in our system, if you're okay with that. The information is that Rajasthan Royals player was approached for spot fixing last month. He was a Mumbai-based Rajasthan Royals player who was approached by another Ranji player who does not play IPL. The third bit of information that we have is that this incident was reported to the BCCI, who then informed the ACSU, that is the anti-corruption unit, as well as Royals. The fourth bit of information is, of course, that Royals play their first IPL match against Kings 11 today. So, Nikhil, knowing this information, what is your first reaction that that comes to your mind? Perhaps fixing something which is a deep rot, which refuses to go away, despite all of the year, the last year, devoted to cleaning up cricket.
Well, I guess, Sanket, we'll have these problems. They'll keep coming and going. It's like some other crime in your life. I think you just have to deal with it. But the thing is, at least the player who was offered money, he was smart enough, and he must be applauded for bringing this to the notice of BCCI so that they can further take it to the ACSU. So, these kind of approaches all of a sudden start stopping. And we need to come up with punishment. You need to involve the government of India with fixing, spot fixing or any of these sorts to make it as a punishable offence. That in itself will serve as a big deterrent.
Absolutely. Nikhil is saying that this is spot fixing should become a punishable offence, which will then serve as a deterrent. But Rasesh, if you're still on the phone line with us, one question that I was meaning to ask is who did this player actually approach? It now appears that he approached the BCCI, who have then passed on this case to the ACSU.
Yes, I think there is a certain procedure that needs to be followed in this case, Sanket, and what the player has done in this case is informed a senior franchisee official, which is obviously a part of the franchise playing the IPL, who then subsequently informed the BCCI official, and the BCCI official went going on to inform its anti-corruption unit. There are, of course, when an incident occurs during the course of a tournament, the players are given numbers of the ACSU official who is officiating during that game. So for each game, there is an ACSU official, and the player can directly approach that official. Since this incident did not occur during IPL before it, he followed the due process, informed the franchisee official, and then the BCCI was involved. In fact, there has been a case in the past when the sport fixing broke out a couple of years ago. One of the players for Rajasthan Royals, Siddharth Trivedi, happened to be approached, and he chose to be silent.
Now, Rasesh, just want to know, is this player part of the playing 11 today? Because Rajasthan Royals, I believe, as the information that you are giving us, is expected to play today. Is this player that you're talking about part of the playing 11?
Well, we wouldn't know, Sanket, in hours before the game begins. The playing 11 is only announced much later, but he is a part of the squad. So there's a 26-member squad that the Rajasthan Royals have. They tour with the team wherever the match is played. Today they're playing in Pune against Kings 11 Punjab. And yes, that player is a part of the squad which has been picked up for them to play for the IPL. But another bit of information that I'd like to add is that in these scenarios where approaches are made, they are obviously made to players who can possibly play in the 11, who can influence the game, or possibly some of them who can then subsequently speak with the other players who can influence the game. But in case of, because in scenarios they want to get spot fixing going, they would want to approach players who can then, who had greater chances of playing in the 11, and so then they can involve themselves in these activities.
Rasesh, have we heard from the BCCI regarding this case? Because as you inform us that the tip-off was actually given to the BCCI at least a month ago. So have you heard from the BCCI in this regard?
Nothing in detail. They have confirmed that the incident took place. We'll get to know more as the day progresses, and great now that the story has broken out. But what's also important to know is that, interestingly and quite ironically, all the subcommittees of the BCCI were formed, but the anti-corruption unit subcommittee hasn't quite been formed yet. There is an chairman of the anti-corruption unit, Mr. Ravi Savani, who's a senior official who's worked with the ICC, ACSU in the past as well. But there are a number of people who assist him. And that subcommittee hasn't quite yet been formed. One is told that is just a part of a procedural formalities which would be completed soon. But in a scenario where the IPL is about to begin and the anti-corruption unit is such an important one, it's almost imperative for the BCCI to get that subcommittee going and the processes in place. So the BCCI tells us that they are taking the aid of the ICC, ACSU to operate these in the ICC activities, in the anti-corruption activities, till such time that the committee is formed. But yes, that one committee, which is an incredibly important one, the anti-corruption subcommittee, hasn't quite yet been formed by the board.
Now, Rasesh, last question before we hit a small commercial break. Have we heard from Rajasthan Royals, the team owners?
I've spoken to a senior official within the Rajasthan Royals setup, and he has confirmed that this incident did take place. In fact, he was quite willing to corroborate the incident, and he did, without naming the player, he did say that the due procedure was then followed, and they informed the BCCI officials, who then went on to inform the anti-corruption unit.
All right, Rasesh Mandani, thanks very much for joining us with all the latest. So that's a big breaking news that we are getting you. A Mumbai-based Rajasthan Royals player has made a stunning claim. About a month ago, he told the BCCI that he was approached to fix an IPL game, spot fixing. The Rajasthan Royals player informed the board, which then informed the ACSU wing of the ICC. The information that we also know is that he was approached by a Ranji player who's not part of any IPL team and is not playing in the IPL. So we'll follow the story as and when we get more information. Rajasthan Royals, remember, is playing Kings 11 Punjab later today.